Fire management can be a completely controversial subject, much like fat side up or fat side down, or if it's wrong to put beans in chili. It is wrong. I know I've made one before, but that was before I insulated this firebox. So come on with me. Let me show you how I manage fire in an insulated firebox or just a thick, heavy walled firebox compared to what I normally do in my old country Pecos. One of the biggest things you have to do is understand that air is a fluid. Now, it's not wet like water, but it is considered a fluid. And like water, we'll find the easiest way to escape from something depending on the slope and gravity and things like that. Air does the same exact thing, and air is influenced by heat, cool, draft, all those good things. And that's why adding an extension on an old country Pecos adds air draft. It helps that air move because of what's called a chimney effect. As that air gets hot, it gets excited and moving around really quickly. It goes up into the cook chamber and finds its way out through this chimney. So because of that, with this large diameter that they came with and the height that I added to it, I found that using a damper is very important to keep even cooking temps across the grates. This big around and that long, there's no back pressure. It's really flowing out of there freely, and keeping some of that heat in is going to be paramount to getting the best fuel efficiency out of your fuel use. So what I like to do, because I don't have a whole lot of room in my firebox, is throw the next split that I'm going to burn on top of my chimney, and that will cover 2/3 to a half of my chimney up depending on how I need it, and I can adjust it just like you would a regular dampener. To get it started, you have to understand that it uses a lot of fuel to bring this insulated cook chamber up to temp. You see, insulation works amazingly once it's up to a good temperature, once it's absorbed smoke. And until then, you're burning a lot of fuel to make it happen. So I like to use propane and a weed burner attachment on my propane bottle to get everything nice and hot. I leave the doors closed. I put the torch in this side. I leave the chimney open on the other side, and I just let it burn for about 5-10 minutes. It'll get about 500-600 degrees in my cook chamber, but it's also preheating all the insulation around this firebox and allowing me to retain some of that heat in the coals that we're about to make. Once that's all preheated, I load up a basket full of coals. Now, I don't always cook with a basket, but when I can start a fire with coals rather than going through a ton of wood to start the fire, I will do that, and that's the only reason I use a basket. And honestly, it's just because this door is so small, I can't access it very easily to pour it in there. So I get a full basket of charcoal going, and then throw a split of wood on every 45 minutes or so, and go from there. This door is also pretty paramount. When we're starting a fire, you keep this door all the way open. I don't open and close the butterfly on the end of it. I just use the door as an adjustment to keep it closed. When I'm burning, I know all my coals are burnt up and I'm adding logs to it regularly. I keep it open about 1.5 inches or so, and then my exhaust open about halfway. And I know this is going to carry me, if I have the right coal bed, about 275 degrees for 30-45 minutes at a time before I need to add another split on there. But when I do add a split on there, I open this door up and let that split catch and engulf with flames before I close it back down to that 1.5 inches and let it keep rolling. By dampening your intake and exhaust, you're not only controlling the temperature of your fire, but also the zone temps of your fire. Like I said, with your intake, if you have it wide open, that's going to burn through there really hot, really fast. You're going to go through fuel really quickly, and you're going to have a really hot fire. If you have your exhaust wide open, you're not going to be containing a whole lot of that. If you do have a smaller exhaust diameter than what I do, you're going to be containing it on the wrong side of the smoker and have uneven cooking temperatures from right to left. However, you can use your dampener to not only maintain that right to left cooking temperature, keep it within 10-15 degrees. Mine actually goes within 5. And you can retain those BTUs so that are not just launching out into the air. Another great advantage to using your dampener on your exhaust, I don't use my whole cook chamber very often. In fact, I generally cook on the back half so that evenness of left left to right really isn't a big deal to me, but what I do have to take in consideration is the BTU wastage that we talked about before, just letting all that hot air escape out the top, but also the way that the air molecules move around in that cook chamber. Like I said, it's a fluid. It's not water, but it is a fluid, and so it's going to move around, bounce around, and when that thing's wide open, it's just blasting around that brisket almost like an air fryer would. And by stifling that off, it's like putting your thumb over the end of a water hose. You're creating a lot of pressure because you're putting back pressure over it, and you're allowing that air to calm down. It's going to have more convection. It's still having draft, so there's still exchange of air, but it's also having convection in there, and it's going to have a cooking environment that's a lot more even and gentle. So you're getting an amazing bark, you're getting that great flavor, but you're not burning the outside and turning those edges into jerky. Let's talk about wood selection, guys. Hardwood is going to be your only choice here. Softwoods like pine and things like that are going to cause fires and just outright nastiness. I like oak and pecan. Pecan has really grown on me lately to be one of my favorites, but oak is just one of those old school traditional flavors that I always love, especially on brisket. And I like to make sure that they're pretty dense, but also seasoned correctly. I know these are seasoned. I've seasoned them myself after cutting them out at my shop, so I know that these are exactly how I like them. But if you don't have a moisture meter, I like for them to sound kind of like this when you drop them. Sound kind of like a bowling pin. And that tells me this is probably right around 15% moisture content, and that's exactly where I like it. 15 to 20 at the max, and the higher moisture you get, the more creosote-y, tarry kind of flavor you're going to get off of it, so you really don't want it. But the lower moisture you get, it's just going to burn through. It's going to put off a really hot, short amount of energy, and then you're going to have to put another one on there. So I found these to work the best, but also this size to work the best with my current setup. Size matters, I know, and it's different for everybody, depending on your smoker, of course. The key thing to a great fire and a great flavor is having that bed of coals there at all times. You don't want it to get too small, because you'll have to throw on a ton of wood and burn up a lot of smoke just to get that bed of coals back down. Now, don't get me wrong, you don't want to just use coals. You do want a little bit of flame, but you want 3 to 5 inches of dancing flames, not 4 feet of flames blasting into your chamber. And that's where that delicate balance of using the exhaust, using the intake, your coal bed, learning what split size of wood to use, and all that good stuff comes into play and makes you a pit master when you master using your pit. Guys, I hope this information helped you out. If there's something I missed, make sure you add it down below. Make sure you like, you subscribe. I love you.